Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School District of Springfield Township Board of School Directors regular board meeting, November 15th, 2016. Prior to the meeting at actually 6:30 p.m., not 6:45 as it mentions on the agenda, we had an executive session to discuss a personnel issue regarding termination charges against an employee. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reading of the mission statement, Mr. Lapidus, would you kindly? Thank you.
Sure. The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students and learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. King.
Mr. Chapman. Here. Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapidus. Here. Ms. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Rayer. Here. Ms. Sarsfield.
Here.
Dr. Taratusky.
Here.
Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Here. Number 6, announcements. The board, at its discretion, may videotape all or any portion of public board meetings subject to the limitations set forth in Policy 006.2, broadcasting of meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. Are there any public comments on agenda items? Approval of minutes. October 5th, 2016, interim meeting, board minutes E. October 18th, 2016, regular meeting, board minutes F. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Approval of treasurer's report. Treasurer's report C. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Reports and information, Student Council report. And if you would introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Josie Anderson.
And I'm Grace Hines.
Hello.
So for the first thing that we have tonight was Powder Puff football, which was last night. It was the annual Powder Puff football game where the juniors dominated once again for the 3rd year in a row, and the girls competed with spirit with the help of some of the guys coaching.
Last month, Student Council organized and put together Homecoming Week. This week included Spirit Week with outfit themes and door decorating, the tailgate, the pep rally, and the dance. Students were avidly involved in the spirit wear as well as the door decorating contest. Students also showed their Spartan pride at the tailgate and later that night at the soccer game, floating between the JV games on the upper field and into the stadium to watch the boys' varsity play to win. Concluding that night, the girls' varsity played a tough game against Wissahickon, and Will Durham and Emily Morris were crowned Homecoming King and Queen. Homecoming Week was concluded at the dance, which was an energizing and fun as the students danced the night away in Candyland.
The play. For the past couple of months, Springfield Thespians have worked hard to finalize their 2016 theater production, and this past week was the final production of Alice in Wonderland. It was a fun play to see, and lots of students and community members came out to cheer on their fellow Spartans. And this upcoming Thursday, November 17th, the high school will be hosting its annual dodgeball tournament at 3 o'clock in the gym. The students have already formed their teams, and now it's time to compete. We look forward to seeing this exciting event that will have lots of spirit leading into Thanksgiving break.
As we celebrate American Education Week, the Springfield Township High School Student Council and Student Body would like to thank the Board of School Directors for all the time and talent each of you shares with the students of Springfield. We know each member of this board leads a busy life, and your generous commitment to School District of Springfield Township makes a positive difference in the lives of students and our families. We are fortunate to have a school board and administration who value our education and make possible the outstanding learning opportunities we experience. Thank you for all of your hard work. We appreciate you. That's all. Next. Maybe next year.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the district PTA report. Sharon Panera.
Hi, I'm Sharon Panera. I'm president of the secondary PTA. I do not have a report from the EEHP, so I'm just be reporting on the secondary. The last year was a really bad year for the secondary PTA, and I'm here tonight to proudly say that we bounced back with a lot of help from a lot of people. Our current membership right now is 290 members, and that includes 45 teachers from the high school and the middle school, mainly the high school. We're going to do another push with the middle school, and that's thanks to Dr. Rittenhouse, who invited me to a faculty meeting, and I spoke to the teachers about the importance of what the PTA does and that it is a parent-teacher association. With that, I handed you all a piece of paper. One of the things that the PTA is proud of is being able to give out mini grants to teachers that apply for them. Last night, we approved those mini grants right there, and as you can see, they're really, really creative. They're going to be great for our students, and it's something that our students wouldn't be able to have in their classrooms if it wasn't for the PTA. So we are very proud that we can do mini grants for all of our teachers. As far as this week, the only thing we have going on is over at the middle school for the 6th graders. They have Grandparents' Day on Friday, which is a nice day, and the kids always love, showing their grandparents around the school and stuff like that. And we're looking forward to hopefully raising some more money and sharing it amongst our students and our teachers. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have reports of committees, and it's all Walter, Property and Finance.
Okay. Hey, I'm not conscious at all. Okay. Monday, which was yesterday, at 8:15 in the morning, we held our property committee meeting. Yes, you missed it. See, no more staring. We discussed a couple of things. We talked about the capital projects that we are planning to get started on fairly quickly. The first one will be the high school stadium renovation. We got samples of the old turf stuff. That was kind of cool. We as me, no one else showed up. We talked about the timeline for Antonelli to end their lease and how that might present a little bit of a challenge that Mr. King is currently trying to work with, correct? And then the others, I figured, yeah. We also briefly talked about what to do with some of the other items like the Enfield site, whether to keep the gym or not, but that's a little bit further off into the future. We talked about the funding options, which kind of ties it in with the Finance Committee. And we did talk about engaging the, I believe it's DeHay, am I pronouncing? No, I'm sorry, Dewey as the construction manager for the overall project. We briefly discussed middle school, the drain replacement, which is huge. And then we finished off the fun morning talking about district bulk salt purchase. That was it. I don't know if there's anything more to add, Mr. King? No? Okay. But that was Monday morning, but on October 25th at 5:30 in the evening, if that wasn't fun enough, we had a Finance Committee meeting, right? We had an overview of our financials by Mr. Mininger, who was Dressler and Company. They're our auditors. I believe they gave us a clean bill of health with, I don't even think they had any comments, did they? Maybe something very minor.
Some comments.
Yeah, but overall, our finances, I think, according to them, are in good shape. We talked about, again, funding the construction project and what the best way to do that is. And let's see, budget timeline. We did talk about the budget timeline. Yes, 17, 18, I'm sorry, we're a year into the future, and how that process is going to, I'm out of time. How that process is going to get started fairly soon, and we finished off with a letter from Ms. Bonnie Davis, tax collector, and I believe she is on the agenda for a little bit later this evening. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the administrative report, Dr. Nancy Hecker.
Thank you. While I'm giving my report, I just wanted to mention, in addition to Sharon's report about the success that they've been having with the PTA, they were kind enough to invite me to come to their meeting last evening so that I was able to deliver an update in terms of our construction projects, so that the members of the PTA were able to hear about all of our plans, primarily for the high school renovations project, the construction of the new auxiliary gym, the changes we're making to our fields, and so forth. And there was a nice discussion, some good questions about the location of the fields, the placement of the fields, turf, and so forth. So I appreciated the fact that the members of the PTA were very much interested in hearing what we had to say about that project. So it was good to be able to continue to share that information with another group. My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Sharon. At this time, I wanted to kind of share the passing of the guard. Unfortunately, we are still in a position at the middle school where we have to turn to an interim principal to lead us through the remainder of the school year, along with Mr. Ryan Thomas, who's really done a stellar job in terms of helping to take over the leadership of that school during Ms. Patterson's absence. And unfortunately, because of other commitments that she has in her very busy post-retirement life, Dr. Cheryl Malfi, who has served us very faithfully since last spring as the interim principal, is going to have to pass the mantle on to a new person. So Cheryl, we just wanted to invite you here this evening to thank you for all the stellar work that you have done at the middle school, to let everybody know how much we appreciated your being here. Things were so incredibly smooth from the minute you stepped through the door and reassured the parents and the students and the faculty members that you knew what you were doing, that you had walked the walk before in your previous role as principal. So we're just grateful to you for keeping things very level and stable there, and for reassuring everyone that there was indeed good, consistent leadership being maintained at the middle school. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to say, but you're certainly welcome to.
I would love to, if I might. I would just like to take the opportunity, I'm sorry, to thank you for the privilege that it has been to serve this community. This is a very special place. I don't think I've ever experienced. I've worked in Norristown, Lower Merion, Garnet Valley. I was an interim in Cheltenham and Colonial. This is a very special place, and it has truly been a privilege. And I really leave with a heavy heart, but I can't do both jobs, and I'm sorry that I can't. I'm sorry to break up the stability that the children Dr. Hacker's leadership is incredible in this district. I so wish that I had met you all many, many years ago and had a career here, because I truly believe that I belong here and this is my home. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It has been a privilege and an honor, and I'm so grateful that you welcomed me in. Thank you. Thank you.
Cheryl, you were so emotional you forgot to mention all the many years you worked at Upper Dublin School District as well. It's the power of being a Springfield Spartan. So on that note, with Cheryl's departure, obviously we were in the position where we had to find, as difficult as that challenge was, a suitable replacement to take over, along with Mr. Thomas, the leadership of the middle school. And we certainly believe that we have found the best person in Dr. Pauline Gagliardi. So Pauline, I'm going to have you come up and perhaps shed a little light on your background so that the board members can get to know who you are and why we thought you were definitely the best candidate to take over between now and the end of the year.
All right, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I feel as if I'm going to have some big shoes to fill. But Dr. Hacker and members of the board, it is truly my honor and privilege to have this opportunity to serve as an interim principal at the middle school. And I look forward to this opportunity. Fortunately, I do already know members of the admin team, so I'm very excited to come back and meet familiar faces. And I'm thrilled to be working in a building that I've heard so many wonderful things about. And you can truly tell by Cheryl's emotions that it is truly a great school, because you don't get that emotional just being, you know, in an average place. So I'm truly looking forward to it. I hope I can bring a number of my experiences and knowledge with me. I have 28 years combined educational experience as being a teacher and an administrator. I started out my career as an elementary mathematics teacher, also serving as a mathematics teacher in a middle school, 6, 7, and 8. And then I started my administrative career as an assistant principal at a high school for 3 years, and then I moved to here in Pennsylvania, where I was in Northley Middle School, serving as an assistant principal, and then moving to Perkiomen Valley, serving as a high school assistant principal. And then I had an opportunity to be appointed to a elementary principal's position to open a brand new building, which I was thrilled about. Again, getting back to my roots. So with that, as you see, I have a lot of experience, and I'm looking forward to working with Ryan and the staff and the families and the students. So thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pauline. We're very happy to have you here as part of our Springfield team.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it. Thank you.
And finally, as part of my administrative report, I'm really turning this over to Bonnie Davis, who is the tax collector here in Springfield Township. We've invited Bonnie here this evening. She has made a request that the board members are familiar with respect to her salary and compensation for the job that she does. So Bonnie, this is your opportunity to share information with the board and for board members to ask any questions.
Certainly. Thank you for having me, Dr. Hacker and the board. I appreciate this opportunity. I did send a letter back a few months ago trying to explain the process. This is by law, I have to ask for an increase in salary at a particular time of year. The tax collectors run next year, but this all has to be settled by February 15th before the petitions are filed, so whoever is running knows what they're getting, what the compensation is and what the deal is. So you start that process a little bit early, and hopefully we can wrap it up by February 15th, and then we'll know what's going forward. So this doesn't hit, anything that you would approve as an increase would not hit until the 2018 fiscal year. So I have one more year on this term. I've done this job 8 years already. Next year will be my 9th year. The compensation that I currently get is $10,000. I collect, well, I've already collected like $38 million. I bill $40 million or so every year for the school district. That doesn't even include interim bills that I send out, and there have been a lot of those because of the new construction. So it's a very complicated job, and when you figure out how much I get per bill, it's less than $1.40. And there are some bills that you touch multiple times. For the installments, you do those 3 times. And the interim bills and bills that come back in the mail and bills that have a problem, people write a check and it's not correct, and just explaining things to people. I run seminars, I meet with people, I do, I think I go above and beyond for the school district, and the compensation is just incredibly low. In 2012, there was a study done, and the study, and I sent a copy to Ken King, so you can look at that. It's like, 164 pages of light reading if you want to do it. But the synopsis is that the tax collector is a bargain at any price, that we do a lot of work. I'm the first layer when people come in, they ask questions. I defend the school and what the taxes are. I have, speech 210 and 115, and I really do explain to people, why the taxes are what they are, and impress upon people how important it is that, the school, you get what you pay for, basically. So when there's an increase, they may call you, but 99 of them are calling me, and one might call you and complain or whatever, but I'm the first layer of defense. I send out approximately 7,500 bills a year just for the school. And I start that process it sort of goes on all year. Even though the bills aren't sent until July, I'm starting that process. It starts all year. I'm talking to Ken and the Board of Assessment about homestead. That starts in February. We get a list of the homestead properties. We're discussing how much will come off of the bills. I'm starting spreadsheets in May and June, and then the bills go out in July, and then the floodgates open, and sitting today actually sending out about 400 reminder letters. Like I said, I've collected about 95% of the bills already. So, but by law, I have to send out reminder letters and tell people that, you didn't pay your bill, and you have till the end of the year to pay it. So from now until the end of the year, I'm helping people, especially if they say, my mortgage company is supposed to pay that. Then I say, well, okay, let's get your mortgage company on the phone. Let's figure this out. Let's, get them to pay it. You won't pay the penalty because that was their job, and I'm an advocate for the taxpayers. So it's a very complicated job, and what I'm requesting is an increase in the compensation, and the way that, in addition to the study in 2012, there was a court case that some tax collectors in Bucks County sued their school district and said they were not compensated adequately. I'm sure the solicitor has read about it, but what happened was it went to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and the Supreme Court said that you cannot, that you must provide reasonable compensation to the tax collector. You can't make it so low that it's not worth doing the job. You can't just undercut so anyhow. But what they came up with was a reasonableness of between $3 and $4, which has actually gone up since then, because that was not in 2012. So what I'm asking for is to be paid per bill, and I've discussed this with Ken, in addition to the 70, it's like 7,200 bills plus the interims, plus the installments. If you count all of that, it's about 7,500. So we're talking about like $30,000, which is really still very reasonable. I don't get any benefits. I pay for my own health insurance. I pay for all expenses out of pocket. I buy my own computer, pens, pencils, printers, ink. The only thing the school pays for at the current time is to actually print and mail the bills, which costs like $6,000, and that, you know, I send you the bills for that, and they're paid. That doesn't come out of my pocket. But for instance, I'm sending these reminder letters now. I just spent $250 on stamps and paper and ink, and so basically it costs me about $30,000 a year in expenses. Actually, it's closer to 40. It's like 36,000. I do a Schedule C, and if you divide that between the county and the township and the school, I'm spending about $12,000 to do the school tax bills. So I lose money. I earn $10,000 less taxes, and I spend like 12 or 15, and so I need to have reasonable compensation. So that's my request, and like I said, it won't hit till 2018 fiscal year, but it needs to be decided in the next couple of months. So if you have any questions.
Thank you for coming this evening and talking us through the process. I knew it probably took that much, but I didn't know all the specifics,
No
so
one
it
does.
was very helpful. I don't have any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a couple. You said that you get about $10,000 a year for doing the tax collecting, correct?
Correct. Not about, exactly.
So it's not really, I mean, it's not a position designed to be someone's livelihood, because you can't live on $10,000, especially
Correct.
since you're spending $12,000.
Correct.
So I guess I'm a little,
It is my livelihood, though.
but that's a choice. And the reason I say this is because this job is also a choice. So to the extent that you say that, well, because you also said reasonable amount, is it your contention that next year, if there is no raise granted by the school board, that there won't be anyone running for tax collector?
No.
There won't be anyone?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You're saying that there will be?
Yes.
So my question is, where, I mean, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, maybe 20,000 overall is not that big of a deal. But it is a 200% increase.
Correct. And
So,
I asked for it 4 years ago as
No,
well.
I understand. My whole thing is, it's an elected position, so to
Right.
the extent that someone is willing to step in, Republican, Democrat, Independent,
Right.
and run for it next year,
Right.
what is our incentive to triple what we're paying now, unless the risk is that come next November, no one steps up, and then we're stuck without a tax collector?
Someone will run, and I will run, but the difference is that I do go above and beyond, and I do extra work, and I actually, Katie Braun, and Ken knows what I do as well, but I mostly have been dealing with Katie lately, and I spent several hours with her. Her head was spinning with the amount of things that I do, and I do go above and beyond. The difference would be is that there are court cases since 2012 where tax collectors are saying you're breaking the law by not paying a reasonable compensation.
But I guess I'm lost a little bit, because it doesn't seem to me like there should be a minimum wage for a publicly elected official. And I think the idea that if you get reelected, because you choose to run, let's say we do nothing, and you get reelected, the idea that you would then sue the district because you're not getting enough, kind of, it confuses me, because you don't have, no one's forcing anyone to be tax collector, it's a choice.
It
So,
is a
so
choice,
how,
but it's-
how is it fair to the citizens of this township that someone would run for election, get elected, turn around and sue the district because they knew what they were running for and what they were getting paid when they were running, and yet, after they get elected, they feel that's not enough and they should be paid more? I think that if a person, I mean, quite frankly, if I felt that I should be paid to be a board member and the board is not paying me, then my choice is not to run and go do something else.
Here's the difference, is I'm elected tax collector, I must do it for the school district.
But you don't have to run.
If I do it for the county, the township, and the school, it's all three of them. I cannot separate out the school
I
and say,
understand, but it's, what I fail to understand is, no one's forcing you to run. If you
but it's my
feel,
job and I love it, and I've done it for 8 years.
then if, I love doing this. I have
Right.
not asked for a penny, although they've doubled my salary of 0. But no, I mean, really, I think an employee is one thing. If you love something, you do it. You don't
But
love
I
something, you
give
get
away a
elected,
lot of
then
my
you
time,
threaten
Walter,
to
and
sue
you
it.
know that. You know.
Believe me, I understand, and I think we're talking not necessarily dollars, because the dollar issue is not as important as the whole concept of someone running for elected office.
And part of the reason is
And-
because I haven't had an increase in, there hasn't been an increase, I don't even know how long.
I understand, but again-
It's been too low for too long, and, you know, I've lost money over the last 8 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I actually just wanted to ask a question with
Sure.
regard to the, you said you also do the county
Correct.
bills
Correct.
and other tax bills for, I guess, for the township, the other
Right.
township bills. So what is your compensation for those?
I don't, you can find out what it is, but that's a separate job. To consider what I get paid for those is not fair, because that's separate bills and separate job. We're a first-class township, and by law, I'm only allowed to be paid $10,000 from the township.
Okay.
However, what they do is they also have me collect the sewer rental, which went away this year, and the refuse fee. So I was paid to collect the sewer rental, and in the middle of this year, or in the middle of my term, that went away, and so I lost money this year. I was not, part of my compensation just went away. But the difference is that they're 3 separate jobs. And
Okay.
what I try and tell people is that if you're a teacher and you work at Sears, you know, in the summer or on weekends, nobody says, we're not going to pay you to work at Sears because you are a teacher and you have this job, so you make enough money there so you won't get paid. If a guy's painting the house down the street, you don't say, come and paint my house for free because somebody else is paying you. They are 3 distinct separate jobs, and the school, as a matter of fact, is ridiculously hard. And it's because of it's just harder than the county and the township because of the installments, because people complain about it more. It's more money. It's, you know, the interim bills are more complicated.
I understand.
And so it's just a very, very difficult
Yep.
job. And like I said, I did it for several years. I didn't have a choice the first 4 years because I was appointed.
Yes.
And I took this job January 21st of 2009, and that was the year that the compensation needed to be decided, and I didn't even know that at that point. So
I would just like to interject, because this board has made a point with any decisions involving compensation across the board. We have always taken it a logical approach. We've run the numbers, we've found
Right.
information, we've done comparisons. So I don't necessarily want to have this be an argument or have anyone on the spot right at the moment. I would like the time for us to go back, consider the request, get the necessary information so that we can make an informed decision.
I was just hoping I wanted some more information at this point in time. I thought Ms. Davis would have it.
Right.
And I had a point of
Yeah.
clarification on what something she said, not an argumentative philosophical debate
Okay,
about
that's fine. I just
conversation.
wanted to make sure that we,
When you were explaining
remember
the
that we're
difference
gonna-
between the taxes that you do, you said we're a first-class district, and that's got a threshold of 10,000? You went through that quickly. Can you clarify, please?
A township can be first class, second class, borough, home rule, and they're all different, and that's a whole complicated thing in and of itself. But the Pennsylvania tax collection law in 1945 said that you can't be paid more than $10,000. That has gone back to, so it's 1945. Think about that. But that we've taken it back to the House, we've gone to, the state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, different state reps have tried to get that raised. It never seems to get off the floor. It's a very complicated thing. But a lot of tax collectors do collect maybe the earned income tax, or they have a per capita tax or a local services tax.
And they get paid differently on those?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand. If
Yes.
in one breath you're saying,
But
we
again,
can't
they're
pay you more than
separate
this.
jobs,
And
so-
so I'm just trying to clarify what you're
Correct.
asking for. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. I believe what Ms. Davis is stating is about the Commonwealth law. This went to the county courts, then it went to Commonwealth Court, then it went to the Supreme Court.
Correct.
They talk about being able to compensate tax collectors on the basis of similarly situated tax collectors. So I guess that means neighboring districts, surveys. What do they do? Not only do they talk about that, they also talk that there has to be a methodology. You can't just be made up because we feel comfortable about it. The $10,000 that we currently paid was probably because the act and the law says first-class townships can pay no more than. So we're like, everybody said, okay, I'll pay you $10,000. I'm assuming that's how it got in. I don't know. So, that did come out of the court case, that we have to do that. There are different ways to compensate tax collectors. You can do it per bill. You can do it by commission.
Correct.
There's a couple of different ways. You can sit down. I know some districts that have sat down and looked at the process. It takes 11 minutes to process a bill, to send it out, to bring it in, things of that nature, and they come up with it. There's all sorts of different ways that we can look at to say, here's a logical process for what we feel this is worth. And then that needs to be supported. And there is something in one of these acts that, I guess it came out of the Commonwealth, that says, I guess it's the Penridge case.
Yes,
Penridge.
and Bucks.
That was a little different, though. They were paying $2.70 and they went to 70 cents. So that's what.
They were
up
trying
it
to
on.
force them to quit.
Yeah, it was
Right.
a little different.
Right.
But out of that, it came, you need to compensate fairly. There has to be a methodology, and it has to be reasonable within the location that you're collecting the taxes.
And in fact, when Penridge, they kept collecting, they tried to force them out of the job by underpaying ridiculously. And then when they went to the Supreme Court actually gave them back wages for the years that they collected.
Well, I think we need to see a specific proposal to consider. I don't think we can just talk about.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
This or that. Some of the numbers, you
can't.
got to watch the numbers. You got to look at the data. Like, when you say that they pay $20,000 a year or something, we pay you $16,000. You don't know if that $20,000 they have to pay their own expenses. You have to look at
So,
how
Mr.
each
King,
of the school districts do
for
their
us,
compensation.
for our
pay me
history,
16.
how long have we been paying 10,000? I'd like to know that. No, I mean, I think I should probably go back farther than Ms. Davis. So I would like to know that as a board member. I think we all should know that, just because obviously, we know that, inflation goes up, and if this has been the number for 20 years, then that's something that we need
And
to know.
there's some things that have occurred since then, in 2006, Act 1,
Yes.
instead of processing one bill, now they're processing three. Process the bill at the same time. I mean, there are changes that may have not been addressed.
And,
Thank you.
and there's more requirements of a tax collector now. We have, I'm a qualified tax collector, which didn't even exist before. I take classes, I keep up that qualification. I'm the president of the Montgomery County Tax Collectors Association. I attend the convention for the state tax collectors. I'm more active than any tax collector has been in Springfield before. I'm the first one that had an email. Like I said, I do seminars. Most of you, except I know Walter pays in installments, but the rest of you are, I think, all paid by a mortgage company. So when you're paid by a mortgage company, you don't really interact with me a whole lot. You don't really know what I do. You're just like, oh, my mortgage company paid it. But sometimes there's duplicate payments. Sometimes they don't pay. Like I said, I'll send these letters out this week, and people will be like, wait a minute, people refinance. I have to, tell people, are the taxes paid or not? There's so much involved with this job that people don't know until you need to interact with me. And then you're like, wow, I had no idea that was all part of this job. When I ran the first time, somebody's comment was, oh, this job is just opening a few envelopes. Well, the bills go out, and the stacks of envelopes every day in the mail are like this. And some of them go back, and some of them are wrong, and I have to call people. And
Well, I think we all appreciate the background that you're giving us and the full scope of what you do. I think that that's been informative for me, so I thank you for that and for the service that you've done. But I do think that we need to get your credentials, the education that you've taken on, all of those things into consideration along with the other proposals. And I think that barring any other clarification points, I think that we just needed more information on all fronts in order to put together a conversation piece.
Sure.
So I think, thank you, Mrs. Nelson, for that. There are two major things that I think the board would need to consider. Bonnie, if you don't mind, I know you've already written a letter with your initial request. You mentioned some figures in the information you provided the board this evening. I think it would be helpful to the board if you submitted a specific proposal about what it is that you are asking for in terms of compensation. That would help the board to have an idea of where you're coming in. And then, of course, Mr. King is currently working on getting additional information that will also inform the board in terms of other districts, comparative, for example, per bill dollar amounts and so forth. So once we have that information in addition to the information you're going to submit, I think that the board will be in a better position at that point to really have full, to be able to undertake full consideration of your request.
Can I just clarify two things? One, that Mr. King said that you pay me $16,000. You don't. My W-2 says $10,000. And so you pay $6,000 or whatever it is for the bills to be printed, but that money doesn't come to me. It's not anything I get, and then, but that was one thing we had talked about, is possibly raising the expenses. If the compensation wouldn't be raised, then at least reimburse me for some things, and
My point on raising that issue was when you look at the data that other schools are paying, if they might be paying $16,000 a year, but they're not covering expenses.
by law you have to cover them.
By law, you can cover supplies, but it may not be specifically delineated to how much they're paying. Some of that salary might go to
By law,
paying
you
some
have
of
to-
your little
I
bills.
think when you put together your proposal,
Yeah,
if
you
you
have
could
to
put in
cover
option A, is this salary, we don't cover expenses, option B, this salary, we cover expenses, and what those are. If this
You
is the
have to
talking
pay
point,
for- Yeah.
if this is the talking point, I think you need to lay out, would I continue to do the job if I was given option A, B, or C, and let us consider those things.
But by law, you have to pay for the things that are required to be sent out, like the bill. You can't say, I'm not
I'm
paying.
talking about the ink and the paper and all the other
Right,
expenditures.
yeah, I think we do understand that.
We
understand that, and I think
Right.
when we review the package, we certainly will confer with our solicitor if needed to be sure that whatever, we're looking at or whatever we accept would be within whatever the law requires that we do.
And
Yeah,
I just wanted to follow up on your comment, Mr. Lapidus, in that I do give away a lot of my time. What I do that I get paid for is one thing. I go to people's houses, I help them with their budgets, I run free seminars, I do a lot that is an elected official position. And so as the tax collector, I do my job and I provide the money to the school, and I do it promptly, and I believe even this year, it came faster. I can't say how fast it comes from the mortgage companies, but this year I pushed and pushed to get it in before the end of August, and that helps your budget. But I do give away a lot of my time. I talk to people on the phone. I send out reminders. October 30th, I was sending emails reminding people that they had a payment due. I don't have to do that. That's what I do as an elected official to help the people, so.
Well, thank you very much for everything that you do for us, and we are definitely willing to consider your proposal. So if you would work that up, and we'll start working on the numbers on our end, and we'll definitely take it into consideration.
Great.
Thank you.
very much.
Moving on to new business. Number 1, personnel attachment, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: administrative personnel, certificated personnel, support personnel, temporary personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities, conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapis. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 2, substitute middle school principal, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the appointment of Dr. Pauline Gagliardi. Is that correct? Thank you. And the contract that has established the salary and fringe benefits for the position of substitute middle school principal effective November 16th, 2016, attachment U. Is there a motion? Motion. Second? All right. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapis. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 3, memorandum of agreement, STEA, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the memorandum of agreement between the Springfield Township Education Association, STEA, and the School District of Springfield Township regarding a staff member's salary placement for the 2016-2017 school year, and no further recognition of Juris Doctor degrees. Is there a motion? Motion. Aye again. Second. Janine and Pat. Any questions or comments?
I do. Can you just clarify this? I know that there are columns of progression across. I just was wondering.
So we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Springfield Township Education Association. We had a member who is a lawyer by trade prior to becoming a teacher in our school district. He obtained his master's degree, came to us with a request to be paid in the master's plus 30 column as opposed to simply the master's column. His rationale was we also have other individuals within the bargaining unit who apparently when they were hired, even though they had not obtained a master's plus 30 credits, they had their Juris Doctor degree and were also law school graduates. And when they were hired by previous superintendents, and I believe when we looked into it for each of those individuals, it was 3 different superintendents, each one hired under a different leader at the time, all of whom granted them master's plus 30 on the salary guide. So when we looked at this and considered the request of this particular staff member, and in light of past practice, we felt that the precedent had already been established for this. However, even though because of past practice, we were willing to do this for this particular staff member, essentially the memorandum of understanding that we entered into stipulates that there will be no more credits given for any Juris Doctorate degree moving forward. It is, of course, highly unlikely that in the future we'll be hiring staff members who have a Juris Doctorate degree, but you never know. But if they do, they come in at whatever educational degree credits conferred and not at the Juris Doctorate level.
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Teretuski.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Number 4, bulk salt purchasing agreement. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the bulk salt purchasing agreement with the Montgomery County Consortium 2016-2017 rock salt bid in the amount of $59.73 per ton. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments? I hope we don't need it.
If we do, it's a very good price.
Yes. Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teretuski.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 5, settlement agreement. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the settlement agreement between the district and the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services to settle all claims arising out of the cost settlement process for the 2012-2013 school-based access program, with such settlement contingent upon similar execution by the department. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Can you talk a little bit about this, Dr. Kaplan?
So the Access Program actually is a reimbursement program offered by the state for certain services under IDEA. There are very stringent requirements in terms of the paperwork and the recording of how fees that are eligible for access reimbursement are to be reimbursed and how they're to be compiled and sent into the state. This is the result of, for lack of a better word, a class action lawsuit on the part of the numerous school districts that are mentioned in, how many is it? 70, Mr. King is reminding me, who filed a lawsuit essentially stating that they had not received adequate return as promised on their reimbursements. So as a result of that suit, which was filed on behalf of all the district, there was a settlement that was made, and it lists every school district and the amount that they are receiving back as a result of the suit. So the board has to approve the settlement amounts.
Do we know how much we're receiving?
Yes, it's in the
It's in the
agreement.
agreement.
It is approximately $23,000.
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Teretuski. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 6, audit report, year-end 6/30/16. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the Finance Committee's recommendation to accept the audit report for year-end June 30th, 2016, as prepared by Dreslin and Company for the School District of Springfield Township. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Lapkus was two.
Yes. We're not forgetting about you over there, John. Sweet hands. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Teratuski. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
It's a long day. Number 7, Middle School Technology Wing Roof Replacement Change Order Recommended Motion. The Board of School Directors approves Robert Ganter Contractors, Inc. to perform all work associated with the Middle School Technology Wing Roof Replacement Project Change Order Number 1, replacement of 4 roof drains not in original scope of work in the amount of $8,000, Attachment V. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Nobody wants to do it, no. Is there a second?
I'll go second.
Okay, second, okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. King.
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Teratuski. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 8, overnight field trip recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves a trip for the High School International Affairs Club to attend the Model Organization of American States Conference in Washington, D.C., November 30th through December 3rd, 2016. Is there a motion? Is there a second? We got to, right? Got that one. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Teratuski. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Maybe I'll sing this one like this one. Okay. Number 9, parameters for new bond issue recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds, Series A of 2016, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $12 million, provided it is the school district's intention to issue no more than $10 million in aggregate principal amount for purposes of providing funds for the acquisitions, design, construction, furnishing, and upgrades to the Springfield Township High School, providing funds for the acquisition, design, construction, furnishing, and any other expenses related to the construction of a new elementary school, HVAC upgrades of existing school facilities, and paying the cost and expenses of issuing the bonds. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Teratuski. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 10, approval of construction manager, recommended motion. The School Board of Directors approves the contract with Dewey Engineering, Inc. to perform construction manager services for the renovations and additions to the high school and the construction of a new elementary school pending superintendent and solicitor review. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Ms. Nelson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Dr. Teratuski. Aye. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 11, approval of land development services, recommended motion. The School Board of Directors approves the contracts with Renew Design Group, Inc. to perform land development services for the following projects. Number 1, renovations and additions to the high school in the amount of $120,000 plus time and materials for reimbursable expenses and additional services if required. Number 2, construction of a new elementary school in the amount of $80,000 plus time and materials for reimbursable expenses and additional services if required. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Nelson?
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Dr. Teratescu?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Number 12, termination of employment. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the resolution regarding the notice of termination of employee number 2045. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Nelson?
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield? Dr. Teratescu?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Future meeting dates, school reorg board meeting, Tuesday, December 6th, 2016, at 7 p.m. in the Freeze Memorial Lobby. Interim board meeting, Tuesday, January 3rd, 2016, 7 p.m., Freeze Memorial Lobby. It is noted that this board meeting is tentative, and I guess it will depend on if there's anything that needs to be taken care of. Okay, great. At this time, there are no board committee meetings scheduled. And that is it. Thank you, everyone, and have a
Happy
good night.
Thanksgiving
Happy
to everyone
Thanksgiving.
in
Don't
our
remind me.
community and to the board.
Motion to adjourn.